In 2018, Square Enix's Team Asano released a brand new RPG for the Nintendo Switch, Octopath Traveler. The game's main draw at first glance was the beautiful HD 2D art style, and its very silly name kept the game in conversation leading up to its release. The game went on to be a critical and commercial success and gave hope to fans such as myself for more games in this style. Luckily for me, a new HD 2D game was on its way, and it was both more beautiful in its visuals and even goofier in name. Triangle Strategy is an all-new tactics-style strategy RPG that looks like a modern take on games of the past such as Final Fantasy Tactics. First things first, while it won't always be a direct comparison, some of my thoughts on this game cannot help but be shaped by similar playing games such as Fire Emblem or even similar looking games as the previously mentioned Octopath Traveler. I will try and provide this context when I feel it necessary. Right off the bat, I want to talk about the first things you will inevitably notice, the look and the sound of the game. I'm a sucker for good 2D artwork, and Triangle Strategy does a great job in my opinion. The character models are very detailed in their sprite work and have beautiful hand-drawn portraits when you look into their stats and equipment screens. The environments you can play in hold the same detail, but only a few maps really stood out to me as something special from a visual standpoint. Many skills and spells throughout the game had great animations and brought a lot of color to the screen that looked especially good on an OLED Switch. The visuals of this game had me feeling nostalgic for Octopath Traveler, so I booted it up to revisit one of my favorite games on the Switch, and to my surprise, Triangle Strategy blows it out of the water. I had just assumed that the games looked similar, but it was impressive to see just how far Team Asano has improved an already fantastic art style from one game to the next. The music in this game is good, if not great, but some of the pieces were repeated a little too much for my liking. This did help some of the lesser used songs feel that much more impactful when they showed up, however. Don't get me wrong, like any other Square Enix RPG, there's some fantastic music in here, just some that overstays its welcome.
Just as I planned. And his stalwart allies.
The story of Triangle Strategy is definitely at the forefront. There was clearly a lot of effort put forth here, with tons of optional lore notes you find throughout the game to read, and with most of the story dialogue in this game being fully voice acted. Each character played their roles well, but honestly, unless it was a big story moment, I rarely sat around to wait for the story to be told to me. I just read each section and advanced. There is a lot of talking in this game, and I imagine if you let it all be read to you, it would make for quite the visual novel, but it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to spend my time with. There are lots of cool quality of life options here too, with the ability to progress, speed up, or skip any dialogue you want. And if you accidentally skip a line you wanted to read, you can easily pull up the story log to check over what you have skipped. I liked the story of this game. It felt like there were real stakes at each step along the way, and often the characters, through my decisions, had to do things that didn't always sit well with me, but it felt like the best way forward. The game does a good job of making the big story pivot moments feel hard to choose from. You weigh your options with your allies and vote on how to proceed, and it's never a good versus bad, black and white decision. There's lots of gray in your choices. You and your merry band are trying to survive some poor odds at times, and some decisions don't come easy, but it felt good. It made me want to replay the game, which I did, and choose different options at these impasses. There is meaningful change at these branching paths with different maps to play on and different characters to play as. All of these decisions culminate to some very hard late game decisions that I legitimately did not know how to choose from. Good thing is, these hard decisions are logged in the Path Traveled section of your War Chronicle, so you can make different or better decisions on your next playthrough. Not all story elements are winners though, with some plot lines being shoehorned in with weird ways because the game didn't have a better way to make them work on all paths. Some of the extra conversations at the encampment felt out of place, literally at times taking place at a part of the map you are not currently in story-wise. These felt kind of silly at times, which to be fair, they often were just silly extra character stories, but some felt forced and didn't meet my expectations for some of the more serious characters. At the time of this recording, I've beaten the game 2 times with wildly different outcomes from each ending. I look forward to one day getting back to the other endings as well. Good news for people who want to experience more of the story, After beating the game, Triangle Strategy has a very good New Game Plus mode to keep you going. I took this opportunity to experiment with different characters and strategies, and carefully choose new story options to get a different ending than my first run. You can even check if the section of the game you're playing is something you did on your last run, and just skip through all the talking with no worries to make the run go faster. This helped me get through even more story and play even more maps very easily.
Allow me. Sorry to worry you.
Now for the gameplay of Triangle Strategy. This was a mixed bag for me occasionally. Being a fan of strategy RPGs like Fire Emblem, for example, I really wanted to hit the ground running on the gameplay side to get to experimenting. Unfortunately, the gameplay is a real slow burn, with the beginning of the game being pretty samey with most of your characters not having unlocked any cool abilities to differentiate themselves much. The back half of the game was a delight though. Each character you play with starts to fill their niche on your team, and you can do way more rewarding moves and personalize how you want to tackle each map. It takes a while to get there, but it's fun when it does. Bosses often have unique quirks you have to handle, and there are a variety of map win-loss scenarios to keep things interesting. Most of them are just kill all the enemies though. The game is very forgiving, letting you change difficulty at your leisure, and allows you to also keep any of the level ups or experience gained in a loss, making subsequent attempts easier. This is good because some moments in this game will frustrate you, namely the regular ambush spawns that reminded me of older Fire Emblem games. Nothing is more annoying than planning out an offense several turns out just to be punished with a new set of enemies with full health that you didn't plan for. Replaying the map, of course, with this in mind, changes the way you go for the objective, but it is deflating on the first go-round. Also worth noting, albeit a less important part of the game, you get to explore and freely move your character around some areas before fighting there. This can let you get some extra dialogue from the characters, pick up extra items, and get a feel for the terrain you may be battling on next. Character progression was hit or miss for me. Hitting each character with different equipment and choosing which skills and ability to put my resources into was rewarding, but I didn't love the leveling up system. The levels of your characters felt like it didn't really matter because the game always tries to keep your levels and the levels of your enemies pretty close. You can freely grind characters up if they lag behind, but you can't really grind to be over-leveled, at least unless you want to spend a lot of time doing so. This is because if what you are with the game deems under-leveled, you'll essentially gain a full level from doing anything. This can be fun and allows you to use lots of characters without having to worry about some characters falling behind in level. The part I take issue with, however, is the inability to over-level characters. At some point, your characters will start gaining virtually no experience from battles until the game decides it wants to let you. This kept all of my main units pretty close in power level, but didn't let me turn my favorites into untouchable killing machines like I wanted. It's probably better for the game balance this way, but my lizard brain wanted to go big, and I didn't like not being able to do that. All things considered, the strengths of the resource management side of the progression outweighed my complaints with the leveling system. At the end of the day, I really enjoyed Triangle Strategy. It is a very good game with lots of interesting depth and possibilities in the way you take on the game. It starts a little slow, both in story and gameplay, but with some perseverance to get through the opening arc, it is a very enjoyable game. Me being a fan of games in the genre helped me power through the slow parts, but also made me wanting for more. The game can be great, but it never really punched through that glass ceiling I want it to, like some of my favorite RPGs. It is a very good game, great at times, but rarely is it amazing in my eyes. The story was engaging, but many of the big moments weren't jaw-dropping or were easily seen coming. There is your standard twist or two that were rewarding to experience, but I don't think I'll be thinking about this story months later like I do with some of my favorites. If you're a fan of the genre, you will enjoy this game. I have no worry there. I just don't know if it's the game mode used to introduce someone to the strategy RPG genre.
A brief respite.
Our victory is assured.
If you like this video, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. If you did not like the video, I forgive you. Please forgive me. If you're interested in some cool videos from others on character viability and Triangle Strategy, I will leave links in the description of some videos I've been watching. Anyway, thanks for watching, and please stay tuned for more.